reach out to someone like a Charles, someone in your business that you want to be like. Or if you don't have that resource, I would really start with social media, reaching out to everyone you know. Go on sites like meetup.com. I feel like I am just like you now, reiterating everything.
I didn't invent it. Did you know when there's a movie, like in a movie, and like someone pulls a sword out and you hear that ka-shing? It's not really the sword, it's a Foley room.
What is a Foley room?
Greg, educate her on what a Foley room is.
It's called a Foley room.
Well, a room is where you can do Foley anywhere, but they do have rooms that are like sound design rooms, and like they'll have just like a sandbox, basically, like a bucket full of dirt or whatever. And if like a horse is walking in the movie,
oh, I see. I get it.
Watching the movie with a microphone and
to make it sound super close.
Two spatulas going like that.
Yeah, or like a.
It's amazing.
Bones crunching, they'll like snap your celery.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
But even a lot of the dialogue that you hear in a movie is done afterwards.
Yeah, they call that ADR.
Wow.
So as we jump into this, I just want to let you guys know that there's been a lot of commentary from the outside world about how like you guys are now in the podcast.
Ooh.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, you were talking to Greg about that thing, or you were talking to Scott about the thing. So I almost kind of feel like we need more cameras and we have to put the cameras on you guys.
Give us a microphone. We have a little microphone.
You want to do that?
That's a good idea.
Let's do that. Let's talk about that at next week's meeting. But back to you, because this is your day. This is your podcast. You're one of the top 240. It's very, very exciting. It's very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you.
You were a little bit late. We're a little pissed off about it, but
You almost canceled on me twice.
we're going to make the best out of this. And I have a feeling it's going to be an awesome podcast because first and foremost, this top 20 under 40 group is a lot of fun.
A lot of personality packed into this group.
A lot of personality packed into this group.
Mhm.
This is, and I do this every year, right? So I
Yes.
don't know if you know this. I do this every year with the
Okay.
top 20 under 40. And you guys are the most fun by far.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy to be a part of this group.
Yeah. So
A
with
lot of
that,
cool people.
with that said, we're going to get into it. Top 20 under 40 for this past year, Amanda Palmeri, Signature Premier Properties.
O'Neill team.
So we have met before, you and I.
Yes.
We met 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, it'll be 3.
For those of you who don't know
3.
the story, right? It'll be 3 in December.
3 in December. Wow.
Yep. So we started a random Facebook conversation. So I followed you on Facebook because that's what I do. I weave my way into realtors' lives in a non-creepy way. Then you slid into my DMs, right?
Right. Yeah. So you had added me on Facebook apparently because
That's what
know,
I do.
That's what you do. And then I asked my friend Brianna, who I grew up with, who's also a realtor, and she
Shout out
said,
to Brianna.
that is a great resource for you. Like you're brand new in the business, having just come out of a completely different industry. This is a good resource for you. You should message him. And I did. And I don't know how I started. I think I asked you, what are some tips for people just getting into the business? And then that was it.
And at that point, I was really on my broker beef thing. Like that's when my broker beef thing really started. So I was just upset for real estate agents because I love you guys, right? Like we're together. I rely on you. We're like, I'm in the trenches with you. I feel your pain when you're in pain, right? So
Yeah.
I was on my broker beef thing and I was like, you know what? Brokers aren't doing shit for their people. And then all of a sudden together, we kind of came up with this idea of we're going to do like a mentoring thing for a year to see what myself, JB Balvadin, and Dan O'Neill could essentially do if the 4 of us worked together and then we podcasted every month and documented it,
Yep.
what that would look like.
I was
So
telling the guys the first one I nearly passed out. I actually thought I was going to pass out.
you hit it very well though.
Yeah,
You hit it very well.
I did.
So we started in January and that went the entire year. And I'm very excited to say that year resulted in your yes. Did that year resulted in your top 20 under 40? Was that
Not
the next year?
It was the following year. Yeah, the
But
first
you
year
had
me come on
Yes.
and say that I was going to sell 50 houses in my first year of real estate, which nothing's impossible. But I had people coming up to me in the deli, no matter, you're going to sell 50 houses, laughing at me. And basically I was hazed for a year. That is what I will say.
But you sold 12 houses in your first year.
13.
Okay.
Yeah, 13 or 14.
So you did like 12, anywhere from 12 to 14, which essentially first year you were a 6-figure earner, made 6
Yeah.
figures,
Mhm.
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's very exciting. And it was very exciting to watch you transform through that process and from that process till today, right?
Mhm.
Because when I met you, you were, a nervous, fresh in the business, baggy clothes wearing, somewhat disheveled new realtor. And now you are a professional realtor who is on point, top 240, doing an amazing job. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sex symbol. Sorry, men, she's taken. And you're just unbelievably
No more
impressive.
baggy clothes.
No more baggy clothes. You're a fashion icon.
Right.
And a lot has changed. So it's very exciting. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
So I guess talk a little bit about what has gone on since our first Facebook conversation until today.
What has gone on? So basically, I have been mentored by the best person in the entire world who's sitting across from me right now.
Dan O'Neill just called.
He's probably watching this right now. Hi, Dan. What has gone on? So basically, my first year, prior to this, worked in hospitality sales in the city. So I worked for the Nomo Soho as a sales coordinator. I would basically, I don't know if you've asked this, but it just kind of segues into what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So I would basically organize like group stays, companies, all different sorts of big events, weddings, things like that, influencer stays. And then I lost my job with COVID because our occupancy basically dipped over 50%. So my mom was a realtor when my brothers and I were growing up. Figured it would be a good thing to get into because I couldn't get another job at the time. Everything was shut down. Took my test and then met you. And basically Charles put me through the most rigorous training program that I am super thankful for. But at the time I hated him. So one of the first things that really got me kickstarted was social media. And I remember where I was the first time that you told me to post on my story and I had to post with my face. Prior to this, my Instagram posts were me in bikinis, me traveling throughout Europe, me out on the weekends. And he's like, yeah, this is not going to work for you. So you got to start really.
You're a professional.
Real estate.
We don't need any creepy guys staring at the goods.
Right. So basically, I'm waiting. You have until 2:00. It wasn't like verbatim like this, but this type of thing. You have until 2:00 to get on your Instagram and talk to people and say, hey, I'm in real estate now. Like, this is what's going on.
Did I say that?
Yeah. And I was
on some shit, huh?
You were on some shit. I woke up every day shaking, but it is what it is. So I was in the Old Navy parking lot, I remember, because there was nothing else to do. So I was going shopping. I came from the gym and I'm like, got on. And people at first were like, what is going on? And then I pretty much consistently started every day talking to my phone, talking to people. Everyone was sitting home. And people would start to expect that. So I started making videos from my room. I had a tripod, barely any equipment, nothing. I would do cheesy reels, educational videos, and I started that pretty consistently. At the time, I had like 800 followers. Now I'll almost have 6,000, which is not a lot, but look at that in 2.5 years. Pretty crazy.
So when we started, did you think the social media thing was going to work?
I knew that it had the potential to work. Which is like my generation, and he'll tell you this, we all want like instant, and we just want to close our eyes, wake up.
I think that's every generation. I can't.
We want to wake up and have 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers, and brand deals and business and all these great things. So in the midst of it happening, I was like, I would see such like a slow growth. And then all of a sudden, like people would start reaching out to me. I love your content, or, I would get leads from it. Or when I went to Texas last year for the Tom Ferry conference, someone ran up to me across the arena from Oregon and said that she follows me. So this was like a slow and steady thing. I didn't think it was going to work, but with consistency, it does work.
So for those of you who don't know, at this point, Amanda and I are dating. I asked you to be my girlfriend over at Chinese food. When was this? 9 months ago?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's been quite the journey.
What was the date? Do you remember the date?
It was when I got back from Tom Ferry, so last week of August.
So last week of August,
yeah,
in Hunan Taste, which is
best Chinese food in Roslyn. If you're looking for
best Chinese food on the island
ever. I want to go there. I'm thinking about it.
You like Chinese? You have to. You're Jewish. That's what we do.
That
bro.
is
diners and Chinese. We do it.
Don't listen to him.
You like Chinese? Hunan Taste. We should actually take a field trip, like an office field trip.
White tablecloth Chinese food place. Best, like homemade.
The entire place is filled with Jews. That's it. There's only Jewish people there. which means it's got to be good because we're picky with Chinese. That's what we do. Most things we suck at. Chinese, we got. Chinese and diners, we got that down. Think about it, Scott. It's worth it. So we date. So like, I guess let's get into like some of the stuff that like we would never talk about. So now we're in a relationship, right? So we're in a relationship. We're both in the same industry. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just go. Let's rip the.
All right.
Let's just rip the
Let's
Band-Aid
rip
off.
the Band-Aid off.
What is it like to date me? Let it all hang out. I'm actually curious to know myself. The good, the bad, the ugly.
You know what?
What is it like?
So I will preface this
Because
by
my mother
saying-
says I'm a pain in
Because
the ass.
he's been asking everybody, and he has asked me. Charles is never typically my type, and I will say that. And that's not meant in an offensive way.
What does that mean?
Never did I think that I would be dating a bald Jewish man.
A much older bald Jewish man,
Yeah.
I guess, at that. Even though I don't realize that.
So I think.
Am I old?
No,
We're
But
13 years apart.
we are 13 years apart, and that
See, that's why I love you, Scott.
that sometimes people are like, oh my God, like I'm sure there's judgment out there. Although no one's ever said anything to me because we're in the same industry. So we have a lot of the same friends. So they know him. But
No.
I have to say he is the most healthy, in shape 43-year-old guy. Does not drink. He doesn't smoke, doesn't put
right.
any,
Ooh, I like
barely
this.
wants to put eye drops in his
This is
eyes.
going way better than I
So
thought.
he takes care of himself, young at heart. And I think that's what really makes
I
our
feel like
relationship work.
I am young. You think people pass judgment on our age difference?
I'm sure people pass judgment for many different reasons. I just don't pay attention to it. No one says anything to me. But I'm sure there's people out there that do.
I feel like do we look like we're really far apart in age?
You do look younger.
Thank you.
Than
Amanda.
Than me?
You already look younger. You're 43.
Yeah.
43.
He does.
You look older
He-
than her, but not.
Oh God.
as old as
Okay.
you are, yeah.
Thank you.
That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
I'll take both. Thank you, Scott.
I will say, like,
Two for-
people that have
two.
seen us that maybe aren't in the industry that don't know, if I tell them that, there's like a shock value. They're like,
So let's get into it. So what is it like to date me? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
okay. Honestly, it's amazing. I really have a hard time saying bad things. It is fun.
You could say the bad things. Don't say
I'll get
honestly
into
either,
it.
because that means everything's going to be a lie that you're about
Yeah,
to
no,
say.
no. So it's a little bit crazy. So he is the quirkiest person that I have ever dated in my life. By quirky, I've never met anybody like
By
him.
quirky, we mean weird.
He's odd. He can be odd to people. And sometimes he embarrasses me.
Bro, I feel like you and I, we're kindred spirits here. So you can't nod your head like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
He is one of the most unique people that I've ever met. Having been mentored by him for a year, like there were times when I was like, what is wrong with this guy? Like something ain't right. That's my saying. Something ain't right.
Yeah, something right.
Very quirky. I'm like, he's too weird. I don't know. But in the same token, his uniqueness is what makes him so lovable. So I would say you're probably the busiest person I have ever dated. But yet, strangely, you also make time for me. So I don't know. Like, where are we going with this?
I don't know.
What's it like? It's like
Yeah.
an adventure. It's an adventure. You never know what you're going to get. Sometimes his head is completely in the clouds, does not pay attention. So I think with me, like, I'm more structured, right? So I guess, keep you in line that way, right?
Yeah. No, I wasn't fishing for anything in particular. Because listen, so I
It's
think
insane. It's crazy.
I think there's things that people are interested in, like what's the dynamic of two people that are in real estate that are working together?
Yeah.
What's the dynamic of
I
two
will
people
say
that
this,
are
before-
extremely high strung?
When he reached out to me and I saw the handsome home buyer, I'm like,
This guy's
what
a
the
douchebag.
hell is this? Number one, I had no idea about him, and people seem to really know him. I did not know him in the industry, but he is like, you're not like Z-list. You're like a
Triple-
local celebrity.
Triple Z.
Yeah. So we go, out on the weekends. There is at least always one table at the restaurant who's staring at me. I'm thinking they want to start a fight. They're looking at me. He's like, no, they're really looking at me. 9 times out of 10, they really are looking at him. So it is kind of funny. It's interesting. It's always an adventure. Sometimes he does annoy me a little bit because his head is in the clouds and he does act like a little kid. So that is the most annoying thing, I would say.
What is it like dating someone that's in the same industry as you?
I prefer it that way. I know that sometimes people might want something different, like they want to be with somebody who doesn't have to talk about work, but I find that it works best for me. I need to date someone that's in my business, number one. You know, it's very hard for people who are not realtors or in this business to understand kind of what goes on. Our time sometimes is limited. We could work on the weekends, things like that. So if you don't understand real estate and you're in a 9 to 5, it can be very hard for you to relate to someone who's constantly working, constantly wanting to achieve the next thing. Like, we're a little crazy.
So you think if we weren't dating, you would be dating somebody in real estate?
I would want to keep it in my industry. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Even though sometimes that could be like a bad thing, but I think.
So this is the risk now. Like, God forbid we could never break up, because then I'd have to see you dating another guy in real estate, and I would have to like hex him or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you would figure out a way to.
So what is the thing that drives, like, what is your like pet peeve about me? What is that one thing that just drives you absolutely insane about me? Like the thing that you hate or dislike the most about me?
The thing that I hate or dislike the most about you is just sometimes how childish you could be.
Really?
Like, you're like a little kid sometimes.
That's it? Isn't that great?
And I get embarrassed easily, so you can't go by me. But sometimes he is just so goddamn embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Give an example.
There's really no filter. So like, we'll be in the middle of the gym. I'm like super, I don't mind PDA, but sometimes like in a place like that, I'm working out, I'm like focused. And he's like staring at me or giving me a weird face. And I'm just like, come on. It's just like.
That's the number one thing that bothers you?
I would say that's the number one thing that bothers
me.
And
that's interesting.
And
this is kind of like therapy.
I could speak for all my females out here. And this is going to sound so crazy, but sometimes he just offers too many solutions. Sometimes I just want to complain.
We don't know this.
Sometimes I just want to vent. And he is like a micromanager in a sense where like he wants you to do what he wants you to do. And like he gets really pissed when you don't. So I think that was our original like. So why don't you talk about our original interaction and how hard I would fight you on things?
I mean, what do you mean that has lasted until today? It's the same. It carries on. In certain cases, you have, I guess at this point, after 3 years of this, I have earned a certain level of, okay, I'm going to blindly trust him when he says do X, Y, Z in business because maybe he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's not so much. Yeah.
But in the beginning, you know, we had a 4-person mentoring and you would fight me on everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
I'm not used to being told like what to do. I don't really like it. And there was just like an air about you where I think you needed to be knocked down a little bit and you were humbled. I humbled you.
No, it doesn't work in that respect. If I'm like, hey, make 3 social media videos a day because I'm telling you it works because we buy 100 houses a year, and you're like, no, go fuck yourself. I don't want to do videos. I didn't really know
you well enough at that point. It was just like the air that you had about you. Something bothered
me. Yeah, my first meeting you hated. Like our first meeting you hated my guts, right?
I did not like you. I wanted to cash out multiple times. I was like, I'm done here. But I stuck with it because I realized that I had a really, really good resource. And to this day, I really have a wonderful resource.
So this is a good thing because I think we should try to implement this in our relationship. And I think this is very valuable for the men and women that are watching this out here, right? Because it's not that like men are designed a certain way, right? And this is like a very old stereotypical thing. And I feel like I've thought about implementing this a number of times, but we just haven't done it or men haven't done it in general. When you complain to a man, the trigger in a man's head, men, is to solve the problem.
Right.
Right? You're complaining about a problem. We're like problem solvers by nature. That's what we do. Okay, let's solve the problem. Right? Does that make sense? Is that the first kind of like snap thing that comes to your head? Right? Yes. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But in women's defense, right? Sometimes you just want to vent to us. Yeah. So we need a signal. So I think we should implement a signal into our relationship. So when you start like going off, like boom, going off, I need to know, is this a problem solving conversation?
Yeah, I mean,
or is this you
could separate it by saying, I'm just trying to vent. And then if I say that, you know what, I just want to vent, he'll be like,
Oh.
okay. And then I get pissed off that he's not giving me a solution. So I really don't have the answer.
Oh,
for
that's
you. I
very
think-
honest of
I
you.
think-
So basically, as a man or me, we're screwed. Men or me
You know
personally,
what?
we're
I think
screwed.
what it is sometimes is women could be very emotional. We're all over the place.
All the
like,
time.
We're very hot and cold. So sometimes if I'm like, you know what the hell? Like, what is going on? And he's just like looking around, looking at the clouds, saying, everything's great. I'm like,
Everything is great.
Like, I want to squeeze him sometimes, but I think that goes for every woman that's married, engaged in a relationship. It's just the dynamic between men and women. At the end of the day, we need each other because we balance each other out. That's how I feel.
And it's like the cork in the bottle,
Right.
right?
What?
It's the cork in the bottle.
What?
It's cork in the bottle. You don't have two bottles and two corks.
Okay.
Cork in the
All
bottle.
right,
Cork-
let's next.
Cork goes in the bottle.
Next topic. See, this is what I'm talking about.
So that's very interesting. Another thing that you have said, which I actually really appreciate. Oh, all right. So let's implement this in our relationship. Can you, when you're going to go on a tangent, can you either say vent and then go into it, or fix and then go into it?
Yeah, sure.
And then I know, like if you go vent, blah, 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 what the fuck? I'm like, all right, cool. She just wants to listen. She wants me to
Right.
listen. I'll listen. Or if you're like fix, boom, boom, I'm like, okay, now I have to get focused
Okay.
because we're going to solve a problem. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Can we try to do that?
Anything for you? Yes.
No, I'm serious. I
No,
think
yeah,
this
we
would be
can.
good.
We've tried that before.
And have we?
But then sometimes like I'll be in the car and I'm like, I'm unleashing about work or something, whatever, personal. And I'm like, I just want to vent. And then he's like this, okay. And I'm like,
All right, so then so if
there's
you,
like a middle ground.
no, so what's going to happen is if you don't specify it, I'm then going to turn around and say vent or fix, and you're going to have to say vent. Okay, cool, continue.
Sure.
And you're going to go. But that's our new signals.
Sounds good.
That's our
That's
thing.
our new metric. Okay.
So we got that. So gentlemen, ladies, anybody who's in a relationship, I think that it's important that maybe you try that. We're going to try that. We'll report back and let you know if it's something that kind of helps the dynamic of a relationship in general. Okay. Second, there's something that you said about men the other day that I was like, I really appreciate that. And you said, because typically I say it's very difficult to be a woman. You said it's very difficult to be a man.
Mm-hmm. Hell to the yeah.
And I appreciate that. And I think Greg and Scott appreciate that also, because I think most of the time it's overlooked that it is not that easy
Yeah,
to be a
because we're in
man.
the generation of like everything is a man's fault. And I'm not saying that there's not some creepy ass men out there. But what I'm saying is men traditionally, and the norms are changing, but men are really expected to be the providers, the, breadwinners, the structure of a lot of things. And even when a woman is looking for a man to date, to marry, like one of the first questions that, your family will always ask you, so what do they do? So I would imagine it can be pretty hard for a man who maybe is finding himself, doesn't really know what he wants to do yet. It could be kind of like intimidating to see the progress of other gentlemen that maybe are doing better, more successful. And then you're kind of feeling like, oh God, I'm supposed to be this rock for someone. I'm supposed to attract someone based on my level of success. And what if, you have to work twice as hard? I don't know. I know women could be the breadwinners now, independent women, but at the end of the day, women like a successful man. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So I think there's a lot of pressure on men to be that force, and not to mention just what's going on in society now, you have to be super careful, tread super lightly. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Goes for men and women, but for men, it's you might as well just sit and not speak, because it's going to be used against you somehow, some way.
All right. So
Just being real.
I appreciate that. So in the 9 minutes that we have left, we should probably steer.
9 minutes.
Yeah, these things go fast. We should probably steer away from the weird things, idiosyncrasies about me and our relationship, like
Right.
that mole on my left cheek and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff,
Let's go.
and go and talk real estate, right?
Mhm.
So first year out of the gate came in super new, right? With our mentorship, you did 12, 14 deals, something like
Mhm.
that. 6-figure GCI, boom, out of the gate, which is very, very, very impressive. Because most realtors don't do 6 figures, right? Period, end of story. But they definitely don't do them in the first year.
Right.
And then you were off. And then second year, you got top 20 under 40, which is essentially what you just won right now. So what everybody out there is wondering is, how do you do it? Where do the deals come from? Now, I will say this, right? I'm starting every year. There's kind of like a theme of like where deals come from. Now, I don't know if it's, just like what's going on in the times or whatever it is. Like last year, everybody was very big. It was like either cold calling or there was a lot of like just outreach. But you know what? It was also a crazy market. So I think it was a lot easier, not to take anything away from them, but I think it was harder this time.
Mm-hmm.
So the theme that I'm seeing across the board right now is like a lot of Zillow. Like everybody that comes in here is like, yo, Zillow.
Yeah.
So how, I know that you operate with Zillow and we talk about Zillow all the time,
Yeah.
but how are you finding most of your deals? How are you getting most of them? Because that's really what everybody that's watching this wants to know.
Yeah,
Like,
so
how are you doing the
For
business?
anyone who doesn't know me and is watching this, I was a solo agent my first year. So I worked for a different broker, was a solo agent. So I didn't have Zillow. So my first year was completely self-sourced. I will say it also has a lot to do with the people you know, your circle, your sphere, and even your age. I know I saw Dana on here when I watched her episode. She's younger, so she said people aren't really at that stage where they're buying, they're doing that sort of stuff yet. For me, I'm 30. People were and are. So a lot of my business in my first year was people I went to college with's parents selling and relocating. There was probably 2 of those. A lot of people from college. I went to St. Joe's. I stayed home. I was in a sorority, so that does help. I had a big network. A lot of my business my first year came from that. People buying for the first time. Their in-laws are selling. Their parents are selling and moving out of state. People on Instagram. I would say mostly people from high school, my sphere. That was the first year. And then I joined a team my second year, I think towards my second year, the O'Neill team. And obviously Dan does provide Zillow. I've closed a couple of Zillow deals. It's not my main source of, leads, but it does help in the off months. But I am not like huge on Zillow. I would say I am big on my sphere, my personal circle, and really honing in on the people I know. And then Zillow is great if it's supplemental. But for me, I don't like to have to depend on an outside party for my income. Like if I can control it myself, the people I know, my circle, that's how I prefer to do it.
Okay. So basically, I'm
not saying that Zillow is bad, because it is very hard to convert Zillow and it's expensive. Like it's very hard. I've done it. Buyers and sell side, I've gotten their sale of their home on it. But for me, it's like, it's not my only source of, my only lead source. It's a supplemental thing. I would rather have like the friend from high school. Like I just closed a deal, a girl I went to high school with, she bought a house. I would rather it come organically that way. It's also like kind of like an addictive, competitive nature in me, I guess. Like I want to know that I could do it on my own. I don't want to have to depend on a lead funnel that's paid for.
No,
it's good. It's good for like supplemental reasons, but it's not my only source. And I want to stress to people who are looking to get into real estate, like there is a way to do it organically too. And Charles will yell at me too. I even feel like I need to get more, out there, networking events and all that stuff, but it really comes from your circle. And I think what you had me do from the beginning was utilizing those 800 followers that I had at the time on Instagram, because that was 800 leads. You also told me to go on Facebook in the very beginning and message everybody that I knew, and I did.
Damn.
And I stayed in touch with those people, whether people thought I was weird, they unfollowed me, they're like, what is she doing? Who cares? Because at the end of the day, all of those deals came from people that knew other people. A kid I sat next to in a technology class in college refers me, his aunt, whatever. My first listing came from Facebook. He was like, you want to give a shot at selling my dad's house? And that's what I did. So that's how it kind of played out for me. I'm not going to knock Zillow because some people are amazing at it, but it's not my main source of leads.
Yeah, no, you're a bit of an old-fashioned gal, which I love and appreciate. In business as in relationships, you are a person-to-person type of person. You no internet dating for you. That was not your thing.
No.
Whether in the relationship or in the business sense.
Organic.
So let's talk about open houses, right? So I've been trying to push a lot of open houses lately for the agents that are listing my stuff. What's been your experience with open houses? Do you like it? What do you have to say to other agents? Because most agents don't want to do open houses.
Listen, I'll be the first to tell you, as soon as that weather hits 70, I am addicted to the sun. He'll tell you, he yells at me about that, sunscreen,
Yep.
whatever.
So
I want to
true.
be outside. I don't want to be working on the weekends, but wrong business if you don't want to work on the weekends. So
Let me
what?
ask you a quick question to digress. You have a Jewish mother, right? Did she drill sunblock usage into your brain? No?
Right. Thank you.
What nationality are you? You had a mother that's a whole bunch of stuff. Did she ever drill sunblock usage into your brain?
She recommended it.
All right. So I have a Sicilian Jewish mother, and maybe I'm the only one who drilled sunblock into my. That's the only, like, I don't get anxiety, but that's the only thing that I have to do, or I might get whatever resembles anxiety.
If you could picture the meme of Mark Zuckerberg on the surfboard when the bottle was dumped on his head, that is this man. I brought a brand new bottle to Jamaica by the last day. 7-day trip. Bottle was gone. This man had me lathering 10 minutes per day by the pool. Every
I came back whiter than when we left.
crevice. Yeah.
It's very
You
important.
got color. You did.
It's very important.
Okay.
As my mother would say in her voice. Do the voice.
It's very important.
It's very important to put sunblock on. I had to have a thing cut off my leg. Look at it. See? So you have to use sunblock. That's not the point. What were we talking about?
So basically, I'm like someone that really cherished my weekends coming from a 9 to 5. Like I didn't want to do anything. So this was hard for me to get into this whole thing. Open houses are held on the weekend. A lot of people are doing twilight open houses now.
Yes.
I will shout out Josh Handler who did one. Amazing.
It
That
works.
thing was packed out because people could come after work. And that sort of thing. But I do them on the weekend. And a lot of times if it's not one of my teams, we will get one of Charles's dad's listings. And I will pop in if nobody does it. And I've gotten 2 deals in the last month and a half, meaning
Yep.
the buyer came in, I was there. Unrepresented, throw out some donuts, a box of Joe, make yourself look presentable, talk to people. They come in, they don't have an agent. Actually, one of them did and was like, you know what? It hasn't been working with that agent. We've lost out on 3 houses. I'm done. I'm not working with anyone. And I put those 2 offers in for them. And before you think, oh, well, you probably got the offers accepted because you're dating Charles. No, I had to come in at the right number. And him and his father are
It's not me.
sticklers with,
It's my dad.
it's Jay Weinraub, best negotiator on the face of this earth. That man is not taking, he doesn't care if you birthed him and you come in with an offer. Like that number has to be what he wants. And so that's really how it happened. So I would say if you have people in your office, top agents that are doing open houses and maybe they can't be there, send out a company email. If you're on a team, volunteer, ask around, because that's how you're going to get exposure. It's how you're going to learn how to interact with people, learn about the lingo in real estate if you're new. And people are coming in a lot of times unrepresented. They're, it's a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. They're just strolling around, taking a look. That's how you build rapport with people. So I love them.
So in closing,
That was perfect.
I would like, so in closing, for all the people out there that would like to be top 20 under 40, but aren't, but would like to be. So they've been in the industry for less than 5 years. They're under 40, obviously, and they have a very healthy gross commission or don't and want to. What is your advice for them?
Like you're saying that they're already pretty successful, but they want to
No, it's just anybody who aspires to
be top 20 over. Okay.
Yes.
So if you're looking to be top 20 under 40, maybe you're doing okay business, but you're not where you want to be. I would say to reach out to someone like a Charles, someone in your business that you want to be like. Or if you don't have that resource, I would really start with social media, reaching out to everyone you know. Go on sites like meetup.com. I feel like I am just like you now, like just reiterating everything.
I didn't invent it either.
Get involved in your community. Meetup.com gives you a weekly breakdown of all the events that are happening in your area business-wise. Like take a chance, start a podcast. You don't have to have the best equipment. Make a commitment. On Tuesdays, I'm going to post tips about real estate. Set it up in your house, your room, wherever, and just be consistent with that. Put yourself out there, start networking, build relationships, and, that's how I would do it. You have to always be working too, because if you're not working or not working towards something, your business is not going to move forward. So
congratulations.
thank you.
I am so
Thank you so
proud of you.
much.
I appreciate you. I love you.
I
You
love you.
are the best.
I love you.
So if anybody is thinking about buying or selling, how did they get a hold of you?
Do we give out cell phone numbers on here? What do
We give out whatever you want to give
Okay.
out.
So across all social media platforms, I am at Amanda Palmeri, AMANDA PALMERI. I recently just joined the new platform Threads. Please go follow me. I'm having so much fun with that app. And then if you're looking to reach me super quickly, phone number is 631-901-7015. Text me, call me, beat me if you want to reach me.
Handsome home buyer, you have a house that smells like Cappy. You know I want to buy it. Old, new, falling down, just built 2 weeks ago. I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. And obviously this podcast and every other podcast is sponsored by
Cardinal Financial.
Sauerzolo.
Sauerzolo. We love him.
Shout out, Sal.
He's the fucking man. Just crushed it last month. #1 office in all of Cardinal Financial, coast to coast. And by that, I mean Maine to Florida. Super proud of him. If you aren't working with him, drop the zero and get with the hero. Sauerzolo, Cardinal Financial, Patchogue, New York. That's a wrap.